Welcome back to Whence, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
This is episode 369. Welcome back to the show. This week on the program, we've got a couple of pieces for you and a very special guest, Brother Guide Sobecki, who is a close friend and a wonderful brother from the Valley of Chicago. We actually went through our Scottish Rite reunion together when we first joined. We sat right next to each other during the first section, and if I remember correctly, we had talked about our Masonic rings in between the different degrees that were happening that day. Since that time, Brother Guide has been a wonderful addition to Freemasonry and has done some great things in local Blue Lodges, as you'll hear about in his piece, which he originally wrote for the Midnight Freemasons just a few weeks ago, and I wanted to give him the chance to do a reading for us here on the program. Brother Guide is a fantastic storyteller, a super intelligent individual, and has done remarkable things at the Valley of Chicago of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction. So without any further ado, I think we're going to hop right into that in just a moment. But first, I also wanted to mention I got wind of this really cool video that the Grand Lodge of Scotland put out about the origins of Scottish Freemasonry. And it is incredibly cool. You can't turn away. Now, I know it's asking a lot in today's day and age. When somebody told me that a video is 30 minutes, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But you'll start watching it. You'll get sucked in right away. Once you get past the 2-minute introduction by the Grand Master, it goes into a different kind of film sequence. And I think you all will very much enjoy it. And to understand Scottish Freemasonry is to really understand Masonry in general, because we're talking about origins that go much farther back than 1717 or the 1721 contested date. So if you really want to know about Freemasonry's history in Scotland, or your own history, because we kind of came from that, then you owe it to yourself to check it out. You can search it on Vimeo, but I did share it on our Whence Came You with the WCY Facebook page, so be sure to check that out. The Whence Came You podcast is brought to you through the generous support of Masonic Revival, contemporary Masonic designs made for today's Freemason. You don't have to settle for throwing a plain old square and compass on anything anymore. Now you get something truly designed and truly wonderful, whether it's aprons, awesome pins, and wonderful neckwear, bow ties, ties, pocket squares, you name it, Masonic Revival has it. Head on over to MasonicRevival.com and check out what they have to offer, and make sure if you see Brother Edgar, tell him thanks for helping bring this program to all of you. And this program is also brought to you by all of you, those of you who support this program. We can't do it without you and your donations and all of your assistance, so thank you so much. To find out more about how you can assist this program, head on over to wcypodcast.com and click on Support the Show. There you can make direct donations, sign up to be a monthly contributor, a fellow, or even a producer. And thanks very much to everybody for donating.
Be more than a Mason. For those who are alarmed or offended by this title, give me a chance to continue, brother. One of the greatest achievements and honors one can hold is to be a true Freemason. But as we are told during our first degree, moderation and balance should be the first working tool we take to any project. This story is about what happens when a loyal and selfless workman must be touched on the shoulder and told he must retire and refresh himself. Men are welcome into Masonry with a wide map of directions they can take. Each lodge ideally offers various projects and service opportunities, schools on ritual and floor work, leadership development, and community outreach events. Moving further, each of the many appendant bodies offers more of all that in specific flavors and genres to suit each taste, and often have sub-bodies for even more engagement and activities. Once you reach out to the wider community, you join a deep network of thousands of brothers like yourself who would love for you to visit their lodge or help out at a regional event. Whether you want to present a lecture on the finest esotericism, ride your Harley Davidson, or even do both on the same weekend, Masonry will let you dive deep and immerse yourself among motivated peers. For a good 2 years, I was an officer in 9 different Masonic organizations, ranging from theater usher to elected officer. I served on a few committees, drove hours a day to perform ritual for my own lodges and any nearby that needed a hand, acted in Scottish Rite theater productions, and spent weekends working degree days for York Rite. I was usually out at a meeting or degree 3 to 4 nights a week, year-round, unless I got a call at work that someone needed a deacon or a steward. For just those occasions, I even kept a full suit and tie in my trunk ready for Masonic emergencies, just in case. Doing casual math one day, I realized I was spending a minimum of 160 nights a year serving as a Mason. And as a few reading this will instantly chime in, I could have been doing more than that. Some regulars were out even more than I was, driving farther and performing bigger roles. At first, I felt I'd cracked the code. You get out of it what you put into it. So the old masters had told me. I learned more about the ritual and history. I gained leadership experience and honed my management skills. I met hundreds of people all over my state. I became trusted by many, and they knew I'd always answer that call. This was being a good and upright Mason. But as the years went by, the drives seemed to get longer. The meetings ran longer and later. Most nights I was getting in at midnight for 6 hours of sleep, then heading off to work, which I jokingly called my 8-hour break from my other job, Masonry. Social events outside the craft became more and more awkward as I lost touch of mainstream hobbies, such as sports, movies, events around town, or even just hanging around with friends who weren't in an officer line. My life after work was spent being a Mason in all its forms, and the only people I ever saw were brothers and their families. We never talked about our jobs and other outlets. Masonry had become a monastery for people like me, but the work had to be done. We needed the slates filled, and this is what it meant to be a Mason. It meant being a bit miserable, but we all seemed to take a little solace in that. I eventually faced a sobering truth. Masons like me were helping the fraternity as a second calling, but from the outside looking in, I was realizing how brothers like us may be exhausting more than just ourselves. Our families and friends only saw us exhausted, dazed, and worrying about the next degree or official visit. Potential members knocking on our doors to join a benevolent secret society found workaholics stretched too thin, who could list their various past titles and committees and not much else. As time wore on, I started looking around the room during all these talks of dwindling membership and vanishing petitioners. I saw these same jaded faces night after night, and they saw mine just as often, because this had become all we ever did. I never had the time to look back and remember what drew me to become a Mason, amidst all this being a Mason. Long gone are the professors, business moguls, and politicians who retreated from their busy lives to center themselves in a lodge of other good men. We are not out in the world shining our light, making people wonder about the lapel pin we wear, and knowing that's where men like us gather. We're in our lodges, under the gray fluorescent lights, mouthing along to rituals we've seen hundreds of times, and dreading the politics behind every vote and motion. Many active members can only list achievements, passions, and life experiences that are all purely Masonic, unless they're also an elk or Kawani on the side. If you talk about this lifestyle to a person off the street, they would hear a lot of unusually grand adjectives said with an uncannily straight face by a tired man worn out by something he volunteered for. Would I have joined if I only met people this isolated and immersed? Worst of all this really making me a better human being? Or was I just becoming a better member of a fraternal organization? My exit from full-time Masonry was not easy. I still cringe looking back at the damaged bridges it left behind. But that first week where I realized I had every night off to myself, there was this faint ember of a warmth I hadn't felt in 2 years. Whether I took a walk down the street or flew to another continent, I could really get out there and see the world again wherever it took me. I could slowly meet myself again, remember what I really found fun or interesting, with less time holding a gavel and more time learning and experiencing things I'd never seen before. That same curiosity that drew me into Masonry was now free at last. Right now, I'm almost just as busy as I was as a professional Mason. But sincerely, I've never been happier. I'm studying martial arts, doing fitness classes, finishing a degree part-time, wandering random seminars and courses, and when I'm lucky, I get to camp or go backpacking. For a few nights a month, I am a truly born-again Mason who sees every ritual like the first time I was initiated. Because now, these are tools and teachings I am carrying with me and rediscovering in the world around me. An accepting mind listens to those I do not initially agree with or understand. Love for the liberal arts and sciences draws me to be a student of experts and mentors of all kinds. Devout justice guides my degree in management. Trained discipline gets me into the gym every day. The ancient magic of geometry guides my footwork as I spar and flow. Care for mankind keeps my eyes on those around me as well as my own goals, never hesitating to offer a hand to those in need. In the hours I don an apron and jewel, I care more about the craft, not as an obligation, but as an outlet to further better myself and enhance my personal journey. I have more knowledge to apply to our mission, and I have more to offer my brothers if they take an interest I have experience in. And when I retire from our gatherings to wander these other paths and pursuits, on various occasions, someone has asked me about a small piece of jewelry they noticed, or about a picture they saw on my Facebook. I've talked about the craft on the sidelines of fighting tournaments and gathered around campfires with admirable people I never would have encountered if I hadn't applied the forgotten working tool and added balance to my life. To the brothers reading this, I commend you and thank you for your contributions to the craft in every form. But do not leave behind what makes you an individual, and never stop looking for ways to improve yourself in the greater world as well as in Masonry. It does not make you a worse Mason to branch out and diversify. It will leave you a much more satisfied and talented man with stories to tell and wisdom to pass on, who may just inspire others to join the fraternity because of the qualities you carried with you from your Masonic journey into the world we served each day.
Now comes the point in the show where I ask you to help support this show. How do we do that? Well, we have a bunch of different ways to do that today. If you head on over to wcypodcast.com, you can click on direct donation through PayPal, which we briefly touched on at the beginning of the program. Of course, you can make that one-time donation, or you can sign up to be a monthly contributor. Contributing $2 a month, $5, or even $10 a month, whatever you choose really helps the program out. Of course, we have a limited edition shop where you can pick up any number of items that come direct from us. Help us out by going to MasonicRevival.com, but also we have some other affiliates that are really important. Banker's Best, one of the most unique things we've ever done, is to work with Brother Levi Banker out of St. Louis, who owns his own company called Banker's Best Beard and Skincare. He's been so generous. If you head to wcypodcast.com, click on More, then click on Banker's Best, and you can check out a bunch of the different products he's got. He's got a whole line of beard care products, skin care, oils, balms, all of this stuff, and he has been doing it a long time. He knows a lot about it. Everything is handmade, quality items. We even came up with the King Solomon's Reserve Beard Balm, which is a few years old now, but remains one of the great products that he still offers. Even the artwork on the bottle was done by a brother. The nice thing about this particular product is 50% of the proceeds come back to the program. If you're a history guy like me, then you'll be pleased to know that what makes the beard oil and balm very special is that it was made utilizing the fragrances specific to the exports of King Solomon's time and location, which is amazing. So black fig and honey is the formula. Luxurious scent, as Levi says, truly fit for our first Grand Master. If you use the promo code BBWCY357 at checkout, you'll also get a little bit of a percentage off. Please check that out. Banker's Best, or just head on over to buybankersbest.com. We also have a code with On It. You can go to our website, click on more, then go to On It, and you can click through any of the links here, or just go to onit.com and use the promo code WCY at checkout. You'll get 10% off, and they'll send a little bit back to the program to help us out. And of course, it's business time. The book that I wrote with John T. Ruark, it is making some real waves, and people are using it and seeing success. So check that out on Amazon. You can click right to it. You can get it on Audible, Kindle, or in print, even on iBooks. And last but not least, I want to ask you to check out the Great Books program. You'll see the banner for it on the left-hand side, Intellectual Linear Progression. Use the promo code WCY, or you can just click on that link there, and you'll actually go right to the website and hear a little bit from Scott Hambrick about how awesome the program is. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you so much for helping us out. Well, I hope you certainly enjoyed Brother Guide's piece. I certainly loved it. We got a lot of response on the website and lots of positive emails about his message that really is, don't forget who you are. It's a wonderful thing to become a Freemason and to dive deeply in, but it's another thing to immerse yourself in such a way that it becomes detrimental to your view of Freemasonry and really is counterintuitive, I guess, to what we're taught as a Mason, but also is it? Because we sit there and we tell guys 24-inch gauge all day long, however, we bust their chops all day when they're not at everything. And I've talked about it a million times, this issue of market oversaturation within Freemasonry. We have a product that is prevalent everywhere, but we don't have enough consumers to buy that product to make it viable. The only real option is to have members join plural and travel around everywhere to carry each other. And I understand this idea of being brotherly and carrying our brothers through things, but wouldn't it just be better to get rid of our egos and merge together and have 5 or 6 very, very strong lodges than to have 25 that can barely open or have to call each other all the time to come together to finish some degree work? I just don't think that that's the greatest way to do things. And really, where Brother Guide is or was in his journey was he was traveling everywhere to do these things. And of course, he's amazing at it. And he has impacted countless individuals from his flawless and meaningful ritual delivery. But it burned him out. And shame on us for doing that. So, those are my thoughts on the paper. I really loved it. I hope you did too.
Are you ready for the holidays? Oh, I'm not talking about those holidays. You know, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. The ones that march us out of the old year with all its vices and superfluities and into the hope of the new year. No, I'm talking about the less common holidays that give us an opportunity to celebrate the forgotten, the mundane, the obscure. This is 21st century America. We are an equal opportunity nation and must give those quirky days their moment in the sun, not to mention their own individual marketing event. Let's hear it for the revenue-generating enthusiasm of National Ice Cream Day, December 13th. Popcorn Day, January 19th. National Donut Day, the first Friday in June. Sunscreen Day, May 27th. Or even National Underwear Day, August 5th. And don't forget to celebrate the days that are just plain absurd, like If Pets Had Thumbs Day, March 3rd. Sneak some zucchini onto your neighbor's porch day, August 8th. Hooty Hoo Day, February 20th. Have a Bad Day Day, November 19th. And my personal favorite, No Diet Day, May 6th. Well, there's a little wheat among all that chaff. Did you know this coming Saturday, November 10th, is nothing less than National Forget-Me-Not Day? To those we might refer to as the profane, National Forget-Me-Not Day is an opportunity to remember friends, family, and loved ones. But we, as free and accepted Masons, know it to have another meaning. I know what it means, and you know what it means. It's not really a Masonic secret, but as for the rest of them, let's keep them guessing. Happy Forget-Me-Not Day. For the Whence Came You podcast, this is Steve Harrison with the Masonic Minute.
All right, a big thanks goes out to illustrious Brother Harrison for hooking it up with a wonderful segment and keying me in, and the rest of us, to Forget-Me-Not Day. Who knew? Really cool. I hope you guys have a great Forget-Me-Not Day. Maybe wear a little Forget-Me-Not pin or something on your suit, or maybe on your collar if you do what I used to do, working outside all day. But anyway, I hope you guys have a cool Forget-Me-Not Day. And again, big thanks goes out to illustrious Brother Harrison for his segment. Also, I should say that I fell behind in putting these segments into the show. So I actually have another one ready for you. Instead of skipping a week and then doing it, we're going to do 2 back-to-back weeks with 2 really great segments. The other one you're really going to love. You'll get a laugh out of it. It's hilarious, but also very serious. So I hope you guys join us next week for that new segment for the Masonic Minute with illustrious Brother Harrison as well. The next piece I have is called Letter Perfect, and it was a Short Talk Bulletin number 4 from November of 1926, number 11, by Unknown. Quote, "We put too much emphasis on ritual and not enough on the higher things in Masonry." End quote. How often have we heard that said? How often some of us have said it? A statement which has the ring of authority often passes for fact. So accustomed are we to the voice of the boss, the law, or the minister that we get out of the habit of questioning, is it true? Yet it will be of use to us here to question closely and ascertain if too much emphasis is put upon ritual. It is easy enough to state what ritual is, certain words arranged in a certain way, which have come down to us, so we say, from time immemorial, and by means of which we confer degrees and impart Masonic teachings to novices and incidentally to the brethren who attend lodge. But when we ask, why is ritual, the answer is not so easy. We have before us constantly the example set by school, college, tutor, and student. Knowledge is knowledge whether given in a set form or otherwise. Twice 2 is equal to 4 is no more true than 4 is the product of 2 multiplied by 2. We can say 2 times 2 or twice 2, 2 by 2, and express exactly the same truth. We learn no words by rote when we study history. The medical student learns geography of the body, but not the heart. Everywhere it is shown to us that the real knowledge does not depend upon certain form of words, and that it is the fact, not the word, which is the important thing. Why, then, this insistence upon the exact memorization of the words of the ritual? Why do we lay so much stress upon the successful employment of a mighty memory? Why do we insist that those who confer degrees should spend painful hours in a long, arduous study in order that certain sentences, often of an involved and old-fashioned construction, may be uttered in a certain way only, and only in a certain way, for the instruction of candidates? Yet there are several reasons why ritual is important. Let us examine and see for ourselves that there really are explanations of the need for memorization. One of the great appeals of Freemasonry, both to the profane and the initiate, is its antiquity. The order can trace an unbroken history of more than 200 years in the present form. The first Grand Lodge was formed in 1717 and has irrefutable documentary evidence of a much longer existence in simpler forms. There is a very complete and circumstantial evidence that Freemasonry is the legitimate and the only heir to the guilds, societies, organizations, and systems of teachings which run so far back into the past that they are lost in the mists which shroud antiquity. Our present rituals, the plural is used advisedly, as no two jurisdictions are exactly at one with another. on what is correct in ritual, our source books from which we prove just where we came from and, to some extent, just when. For instance, the penalties are so obviously taken from some of the early English laws that no sensible student can believe that they were inverted or first used, let us say, in the time of King Solomon. If we alter our ritual, either intentionally or by poor memorization, we gradually lose the many references concealed in the words and sentences which tell the story of where we came from and when. It is the beautiful thing to do, as all have done who have gone this way before, to say the same words, take the same obligations, repeat the same ceremonies that Washington underwent, gives us a feeling of kinship with the father of this country which no non-Mason may have. But this we must lose if we change our ritual, little by little, altering it by poor work, forgetting, or leaving words out. Time is relative to the observer. What is very slow to the man may be very rapid to nature. Nature has all the time there is to drop out a word here, put in a word there, a new one there, eliminate this sentence and add the one to our ritual. A very few score of years, the old ritual will be entirely altered and become something new. We have a confirmation on this. Certain parts of the ritual are printed. The expression in these printed paragraphs are practically and universally the same in most of our jurisdictions. Occasionally, there is a variation showing where some committee on the work and lectures has not been afraid to change the work of the fathers. But, as a whole, the printed portion of our work is substantially what it was when it was first composed and phrased, probably by Preston and Dermot. But the secret work, given between portions of the printed work, is very different in many of our jurisdictions. Some of these differences, of course, are accounted for by the different original sources, yet even in two jurisdictions which had the same source of Freemasonry and originally had the same work, we found variations, showing that mouth to ear, no matter how secret it may be, is not a wholly accurate way of transmitting words. If then, in spite of us, alterations creep in by the slow progress of time and human fallibility, how much faster will the ritual change if we are careless, indifferent, or in open rebellion against established Masonic tradition? The further away we get from the original source, the more meticulously careful must trustworthy Masons be to pass on to posterity the work exactly as we received it. The Mason of olden time could go to his source for the re-inspiration and re-instruction. We cannot. Ritual is the thread which binds us to those who immediately preceded us, as their ritual bound them to their fathers, our grandfathers. The ritual we hand down to our sons and their sons' sons will be their bond with us, and through us with the historic dead. To alter that bond intentionally is to wrong those who come after us, even as we have been wronged where those who preceded us were careless or inefficient in their memorization and rendition of the ritual. It is not for us to say, quote-unquote, this form of words is better because they are plainer, any more than it is for us to say that we can build a better temple than Solomon erected or write a better document than the Constitution of the United States. But we amend the Constitution, some brothers may argue. Aye, we amend it, but we don't alter it. We keep the old just as it is written and write our amendments separately. And we have been obliged to amend the Masonic procedure of our progenitors in many ways. Modern times require modern methods, but we can add to our procedure without. Every Masonic book on symbolism is an addition, but it is not a change. Every lecture delivered by a student of Masonry may open up a new vision, but it is not a change in the old. To amplify, explain, expound is but to give that quote-unquote good and wholesome instruction, which a master is sworn to do, but all that may be done without in any way altering the fundamentals of our methods of teaching. But there is a great and more important reason than any of these. Freemasonry is not a thing, but a system of thought. It is not something that may be bought or sold. It can only be won. We may not wrap up Freemasonry in a package and give to an initiate. All we can do is to lead him to the gate, beyond which lies the field which he may till, the mine in which he may dig, the treasure house from which he may help himself. Our duty is to lead him so that the way is clear, to give him instructions in such a way that he cannot miss the path. This we do by our ceremonies, our ritual. In our ritual is contained the germ of all those philosophical and moral truths which Freemasonry teaches. In our ritual is at least one explanation of our symbols. In the ritual are the real secrets of Freemasonry made plain for those who have ears to hear. If we memorize our ritual badly, we put an emphasis on the way we see it, not on what we say. If we omit or interpolate, we change the instructions, which generations of Masons have found to be effective. If we do not pass to others what we have received, just as we have received it, we handicap those who profess to teach and thus can have no right to complain if they do not become good Masons, but merely lodge members. A candidate comes among us, knowing nothing of the fraternity beyond the fact that it is an association of men in an order which has had the approbation of leaders of men for hundreds of years. Upon the impressions we make upon him when he takes his degree will depend not only on the kind of Mason he becomes, but in some respects the judgment of the world will make of Masonry, since it can only judge of the institution from the individual. The impression made upon him will depend very largely on the character of the work we do, the care and attention we have given to its preparation, the ease with which the dear old words come from our hearts and lips. Anyone with time and attention can memorize ritual, but it is not enough merely to know it and deliver it as so it sounds, as something learned by rote, parrot-like, and unimpressive. We may not speak as an orator speaks. We may not have his personality and the impressiveness of an actor, but we all can, if we only will, attain the perfection of letter knowledge. We can learn our ritual so that it becomes a part of us and give it forth with ease and clarity, if not with fire and force. The vast majority of ritualists are but indifferent elocutionists. Freemasonry neither expects nor extracts a very high standard of delivery from us, her servants. But to make up for that which nature has denied us, we owe to Freemasonry that willingness to study, that care and preparation, that interest and perfection which alone will enable us to pass on those who are to be our brothers, her teachings, her instructions, the holy fire concealed in her old words. Be not discouraged then if ritual comes hard. Fail not in the task, nor question that it is worthwhile, for on what we do, and on the way in which we do it, depends in a large measure the Freemasonry of the future. As we do well or ill, so will those who come after us do ill or well. That's it for this week. I hope you guys all really enjoyed the program. Go out and check out that Grand Lodge of Scotland video if you haven't already done so. Let me know what you think on the Facebook, or shoot me a message in Messenger, or send me an email, wcypodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit me up at admin@wcypodcast.com as well. I'll have links back to the original Midnight Freemason article that Brother Guide Sobecki wrote if you care to share that in a lodge or anywhere else that you'd like. And also, one last thing, a special shout out goes out to Brother Levi Banker and his wife. Congratulations, you guys. And that's it. So until next week, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.